Hello, friends. Welcome to a very special episode of BrentoCast. Episode number 24 is dedicated to my friend Bill Hermann. Bill and I go way back. In high school, he was probably my best friend for a period of time when I just didn't hang out with a lot of people. And I guess we were both united in being goofy nerds together. And we both played football on the same team and found ourselves not in the popular group of folks with all the coaches at various times, and just kind of bonded and became buddies and hung out a lot, worked out a lot, just, shot the crap a lot, saw movies and stuff. And over the years, didn't get to spend as much time with Bill as I wanted to, but he moved away toward the end of our high school years to Ohio, and as I understand, his family had spent time in Georgia, Ohio, and then here. And his dad passed away when we were in high school, so after that, I think the family sort of up and moved to Ohio. And then Bill ultimately settled in Ohio and lived there in the years since. And from time to time, he was never great about keeping up with me as far as calling and stuff. Once in a while, we would talk on the phone, but usually it would be Bill just stopping in and staying for, 5 or 6 days or whatever, and us riding around and looking at their old house and the old neighborhood places we used to play and things of that sort. And it was always good to see him and reconnect. And, from time to time, we would be at different places in life, and he'd come and sort of update me on where he was at, and I would update him. Of course, my life was very family-focused and driven, and I think he had a short marriage that didn't work out so well. And he had a job. He worked for a while. Bill was born with both of his feet turned inward and had to endure a great number of painful surgeries and recoveries in his lifetime. I think probably over 20 all said and done. And it left him sort of bow-legged and somewhat compromised in his posture, which, led to a lot of pain for him. And then on top of that, he was involved in at least one vehicle accident I know of that caused one of his legs to have to be, his ankle to be broken and sort of pinned. In other words, he couldn't move his ankle from a 90-degree angle on one side. And I know that caused him a lot of pain and difficulty over the years. But, he managed it like a champ and continued to be a normal person, I guess, and a person that worked a job and things of this sort until, things just got too bad for him to endure and be able to carry on. And this is all just from things he's related to me over the years. But anyway, just over a year ago, Bill stopped through for a visit, and I was surprised to hear that he'd had a heart attack and flatlined at one point, and then also had a stroke after that. And he told me that it had changed him, and I observed that over the 9 days that we spent together. But still, I was glad to see him. We went around, visited the old haunts, went out to a South Stanley. Actually, it was the South Stanley homecoming football game that we went to back in October of 2000, I guess, 21. Yeah. And Bill left Albemarle after spending about 9 days with me. He left Albemarle probably around the 15th of October last year. And he had mentioned to me that since the seizure, he was having a hard time with things like email, managing, checking his messages, texting and whatnot. So I made sure to set myself up on his phone, text him, showed him how to check it, made sure that I verified his email and sent him an email, made sure he could get it and that sort of thing. And on Facebook, set up a new account, made sure that he could get my messages. And literally, when he left Albemarle, I texted him that night. I texted him the next day, followed up with him weeks later, probably over the course of the next year. Just kept following up, here and there every month or so to see if one of my messages would get seen or whatever. And I wasn't super concerned that he wouldn't get back to me at some point, but I guess I did have a premonition that while he was here that might be the last time that I saw him. And as I knew the health problems probably were going to get worse, and I took a bunch of pictures of him and took some video of him, and never actually deleted that video from my phone even after I uploaded it, which is something I typically do because I make so much video with my granddaughter. But anyway, last night I got the message from his sister Patty that he passed away at home in his sleep on November 18th, they think, of cardiac arrest. And it was a real shock, guys. I'm not going to kid you. I was in a pretty happy state of mind with Delilah out at the Christmas lights, and dancing her around under a snow machine and just having a jolly old time. And it sort of hit me out of left field, and I really didn't quite know how to take it. I definitely stayed up late last night, maybe fell asleep around 3:30, and just reflecting on my time with Bill and what I was going to say. How was I going to make this make sense to me? That Bill, first off, I don't know if you ever hear this, but thanks, Patty, for letting me know. I appreciate the clarity on the situation and not having to wonder what had happened to Bill. But I am really, really shocked, and I really just don't know what to say. I want to avoid saying anything that would cause harm to anyone. I know that there were challenges with Bill's family, and he definitely shared that with me when he was here. I never really knew. I knew 3 members of Bill's family fairly well. That'd be Tom, whom I never had any use for and still don't. That'd be Bill, who was my best friend in high school, and his mom, who I knew fairly well, I guess. I just thought she was wild. I mean, honestly, she's a person that did not harbor any modesty about how she felt. She would absolutely say what she wanted to say whenever. She's the only person that I have ever seen go weapons free on high school teachers, and I'm talking about in the 80s saying MFer and things of that nature to a person in authority was unheard of, but she didn't have a problem with it. And it was all in defense of Bill. So, I mean, I'm not saying that's how you should talk to teachers, but I am saying that once in a while some teachers need to be talked to that way to put them in check, because they are not holier than thou like a lot of them asked for, that sort of deference back in the day. I had some really good teachers, but there were a couple that were not great, and I remember being 2 parts shocked, thinking, well, the teacher she's cursing, I had issues with that teacher too. I'm not going to say who it was, but she definitely played favorites, and she didn't like Bill for whatever reason. Tom had laid down a pattern of bad behavior at high school that I think Bill sort of inherited a little bit. And they were kind of, they were raised in the same household, so they could get mouthy at times to authority, which I usually stop short of that. But anyway, moving right along. Whatever I didn't like in a weird sort of way, like Bill was kind of the mirror image of Tom, and that Tom was crazy and kind of a bully. Bill was sort of like a nurturer type and a guy that always had a smile on his face. And if he was your friend, he was your friend. We did have blow-ups here and there, but he would always come and apologize when he was wrong, and we always remained friends over the years too. And it's really kind of cool. I remember he kind of went through a thing where he was really heavy into bodybuilding, and I was into jiu-jitsu, and he came down here, and he was always... He liked to grab me on the neck and really show me how strong he was, but it really hurt. I was like, look, dude, if you want me to climb on your back and choke you unconscious, I could do that. I mean, I'm rolling right now, 4 nights a week. I could do that, but I don't want to do that. So please stop pinching my neck so hard, But there's a lot of funny anecdotes and stories I have about Bill, which I do want to share. I guess I need to kind of make notes and go through it in some sort of a cohesive way that makes sense, but I'm just trying to get out what I've got to get out at the moment. I really loved Bill. Bill was a very solid presence in my life when he did show up, and I hate that he moved away. He definitely talked after his divorce about moving down to North Carolina, and I wish he had done that, because I know for a fact that he would have at least had me. And I kept saying, I was I know I'm not like everything, I'm not the same as having a family. I was but if you're here, you can always count on my help. If your car breaks down on the side of the road, there's at least one guy you can call before you have to go to AAA or whatever. But some of the ambiguity and blurriness of what happened to Bill after he left has kind of come into focus now a little bit through Patty sharing with me what friends of Bill's up there had shared. And I can kind of put together his last days in a nutshell, as I gather. He left my home on the 15th, and he was kind of non-committal. He stayed 9 days, and basically my only requirements, apart from working 2 days a week and massage therapy, was to watch Delilah. I says, well, look, man, just because I'm with her, you can come do stuff with me. And we went to a couple different fall festivals. We went out and visited the covered bridge. I've got pictures and video of that. We went out and did some of my collecting of HDRI photography setups, and he helped me with that a little bit, taking the car off and letting me sort of post up in the middle of a road out in the country and whatnot, and, get that sort of stuff. And I'm going to remember those as really kind of touch point moments in my lifetime, and knowing that was my last time hanging out with him. And I really truly did. Oh, I took the photographs needed to make him into a poser character for my 3D comics, and I still have that. And for some reason I haven't actually made any graphics with it, but I just double checked that I had all that. And but I definitely had the feeling. We were sitting there. There's actually a picture you're going to see if you watch this video of Bill sitting at the top of some bleachers out of an old ball field, and it's in Mount Pleasant, actually. That's a park we like to go to, and he was just sitting there. I said, well, let me take a picture of you. I took a picture of him, and he's smiling. He's up at the far top corner of the composition, and just kind of waving, hey, and it's kind of like how I feel like he's now sort of in another place, looking back. But of course, it wouldn't be heaven if you had to look back down here and see how screwed up things are. So I don't know, guys. I'm just kind of trying to wrap my head around this, because even though I kind of had a premonition, and I sort of thought when I didn't hear back that things might have not went in a good way with him, I was still surprised to hear what did happen. So apparently he either went home to Ohio or didn't go home, but at some point he drove to the West Coast, and he relayed to his neighbor how he got there just as the sun was setting and walked out on the beach. And then he got back in his car and he drove to Maine and up around the Maine area, and then he drove back home to Ohio. And I guess it was around Thanksgiving that someone was kind of verifying he was going to have Thanksgiving dinner with him, and he didn't respond. And the guy just had a bad feeling about it and went and checked on him, and that's how they found he had passed away at home, peacefully in his sleep, I think. But his sister, Patty, his next of kin was Patty, his sister, and she's in Georgia. So a year passed before, she had a chance to go through all his things, and, think to look at his phone and say, well, who did he text a lot? And I got a text last night. So long story short, it's December 18th. So on the 17th, late on the 17th, I got the text, that he had passed away. And this is just me trying to process, guys. I mean, I'm not a crier. I internalize a lot of things, and instead of crying it out and really feeling, I cried in my sleep for sure, but I just tend to internalize it, and I guess talking about it sort of helps me express it on some level. And I'm not, it's not as painful that way, but this one hurt. This one hurt, man. It's just like my dad hurt. This is probably the biggest shock to my system emotionally, since I lost my dad going on 7 years ago now. You never know how to get it out, and get the pain, to lessen, but it really, I was really sad to hear it. And, Nancy and I talked about it last night. Of course I got to Lila, so I can't act but a certain way. And, just, lying there in bed, thinking about all the things we did and all the times we had, and how much richer I am to have had Bill in my life, and really connected with him over not being the popular kid, and which we weren't. Definitely had. I want to recall. I'm going to write down and actually script out my next episode where I'm going to really talk about some of the stories that Bill and I, some of our times and adventures, and some of our experiences with the less than stellar coaching staff at South Stanley. And some of that stuff needs to be said, and I think now's a good time to say it, get it out there. I had great teachers, and I had at least 2 really good coaches, and I had a lot of coaches that shouldn't have been coaches, frankly. And some people might be surprised to hear who that is. At this point, there's no reason not to be super honest about it, so I'm going to be. But again, just in the context of sharing things that Bill and I went through together, the good and the bad times, we had a lot of good times. One of the first times I recall hanging out with Bill, we made friends at school on the football team, and my mom dropped me off over there at Bill and Tom's house. That's what I thought of it as. They were sort of like the brothers Hermann, and Patty was a couple years older than us, so I did see her from time to time there, but I didn't see her that much because she was off, I guess, dating or doing stuff with her peers, whatever. And so she was rarely there. But I only saw her once or twice over there at their house, which was really, as the crow flies, not very far from my house, just another neighborhood, maybe 3 miles away. But one of the first things we did was play backyard football. And I do remember that. And Bill was always kind of a burly kid. Couldn't run fast, but could definitely hit hard because he was big. And Tom, on the other hand, was lithe and skinny and fast and mean. And I remember going up to catch a pass, and it was supposed to be like just touch football, right? Like you don't really tackle somebody. But, Tom never had a sense of fair play, and he was, like I said, a bully. So I'd go up to raise my arms to catch the ball, and he would literally punch me in the ribs. He did that like twice. And, basically just trying to bully me. And I've never responded well to bullies. And I was like, well, either we're going to go do something else or I'm going to bust this kid in the mouth. And so we just went and just did something else. And, kind of from that point on, I realized, I was like, hey, dude, that's not cool, man. That's not fun. We're trying to have fun here. I realized his nature was kind of like, I don't know. Who can say the psychology? Maybe he thought that Bill was the mother's favorite or something like that. But when you act like a shit your whole life, people tend to start thinking of you as a shit. What can I say? I'm not here to impugn Tom, but just to say that. That's why he and I weren't better friends, and probably that's why Bill and I were friends, because Bill would sort of take up, and he was used to taking Tom's shit, so he had a thick skin for it, and we became friends, and that lasted throughout his years here. We hung out together, we saw movies, went to football games, even after he quit playing and I was still playing. We still hung out. And up until the time that his dad passed away and they moved to Ohio. I don't remember the timeline precisely, but we were close friends, And, I can't imagine high school without Bill, to be honest with you. We laughed a lot. We kind of bonded over making fun of certain things that needed to be made fun of and telling jokes. And, in my world, people didn't talk the way that they talked in Bill's family. I think, his mother had sort of a sailor mouth, and some of the curse words that he knew I had never even heard of, frankly. And that probably made me laugh a lot more, Gosh, I feel like I'm just going nowhere with this story. I really do need to script some of these out. I'm going to share some of the specific adventures, but we'll jump back to the last time that I visited Bill. He was in good spirits. He did tell me, it's like, hey, like my brain, I can tell my brain has sort of changed. He said in particular things that should be funny, lots of times he just won't see as funny. And we went to see a movie, and it was a comedy, and it was pretty funny. I looked over at a moment when I was really yucking it up, and I looked over at Bill, and he was just really stone-faced, and that's when I realized, I was like, he's not talking this up. This is a real thing. Like, he has definitely changed. And, he was the same, but he wasn't. And one of those days we were supposed to meet up and do something. I think he was supposed to come over here, and I was starting to jam with Harrison, my friend, and I had some other people over here. We were going to record. I said, hey, come over and hang out. You can kind of see what I do with my music. And I remember being a little disappointed when he didn't show up, but as soon as those guys left, I was able to get a hold of him. But I did go by. I was supposed to talk to him about 1 o'clock that day. I went by the hotel to make sure his truck was still there, and it was. And I called his room, no answer. And I was starting to get a little bit worried, which makes it really weird. I don't know if he was already having like some sort of like just extra exhaustion because of the heart condition. Maybe it wasn't 100%. I don't know, but I did suspect that at the time. And then, when I talked to me, like, I don't know what happened, man. I just went to sleep, and I slept like 14 hours. I guess you were tired. Because he had been driving all over, driving to Georgia, driving up here. I didn't think too much of it, but, we just went on like nothing was wrong. And he was cool enough to go with me just because he wanted to spend time with me and connect up with me again. And I really appreciate him doing that. And it was like old times. We, went to the football game at South Stanley, because he always associated that with probably a happier time in his life when his dad was around and stuff. And went out there. Of course, everything had changed, and we watched the homecoming football game in the rain, like I said. And then we went and ate a few places around here. We went and ate over in Denton. We went and visited a fall festival with Delilah. I have pictures from that. He was really cool. To hang out with me while I was minding her, and like most of my friends would not do that, no doubt. But he was a pretty selfless guy when it came to, if he wanted to spend time with you, he would just come and do it, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal if you were doing something that didn't particularly include him. He would just hang out with you, and it'd be a good time, And I got pictures of that, and he was not agitated by me wanting to take photos of him, which I did. And I'm going to share a little video and some photos that I took of him, and then later on I'll share some artwork that I made from those photos. But it's, man, what can I tell you? It is a shock to lose somebody that was kind of a pillar in your formative years, I mean, between him and Todd Britt were basically my two closest friends growing up, and through all my years of high school for the most part. And 51 years old is not a long enough life for a guy as good as Bill Hermann. But only the good die young. The evil seem to live forever. And I'm going to leave it at that, guys. I unfortunately this morning when I was I just got picked up by my brother to go to lunch, and we were starting to talk about Bill, and he pulled out without looking left. He pulled out right in front of a Jeep that totally T-boned us, and kind of rung my bell, to be honest with you. But by the grace of God, everybody walked away without really any serious injury. And but it's like the grieving process and getting hit and shook, and my bell rung. It did not hit my head. I'm just saying the impact shook me, banged my finger a little bit, and kind of hurt my wrist, but not badly. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know which end's up right now, guys. But I will tell you that I'm going to miss my friend Bill Hermann, and this will be at least one of two podcasts dedicated to his memory. And man, what can I say? Bill, I miss you, man. Rest in peace, brother. Brento loves you.